don't know how free I am. I am what I am, and I am free. You don't know how free I am.
Yo, check this. I might not be what you want me to be, so you might not see what you want to see. But if you got a minute, listen to what I gotta say, because it's a brand new year and it's a brand new day. See, there's a gap between my culture and the life that I lead, so some will call me an apple, and some a bad seed. They have no idea how my heart will bleed. Their words and attitudes are things I just don't need.
You don't know how free I am. I am what I am, and I am free.
You see, I'm proud of who I am, and I'm proud of where I'm from. Those ones spreading racism, they're just fucking dumb. Now, if you're looking at my life and you say I've assimilated, to simplify things, just a little more complicated. See, I'm a modern day native with a modern day life. I have modern day problems and modern day strife.
I am what I am, and I am free. You don't know how free I am. You don't know how free I am.
Now I hear other natives, they talk about the past, and will I do the same? Fuck that. See, I've got no time to dwell on what's already done. I've got too many things that I want to do. And they don't include knives, and they don't include guns. I'm talking about knowledge and sharing it too. See, my people need to learn how to cohabitate, get rid of the anger, and get rid of the hate. We gotta stop for a minute and learn to educate. And you'll see in the end, we all have to communicate. I know there'll be a time to make a stand and a time to fight, but if you do that, make sure the cause is right. Because if the cause is right and the cause is just, greater numbers of people will be backing you up. History has repeatedly shown to us all that united we stand and divided we fall. They were talking about natives and natives alone, because this is a big world, and this world is our home. Now I've seen some beautiful people, and ugly ones too, and there's no single color that comes into view. So the message I'm sending, it's not all that long. It's just, I want the human race to be stronger than strong. I said I just want the human race to be stronger than strong.
You all have to be strong.
Done it. Word.
You all have to be strong. Peace.
Sigurli swagwag, Galahindi neo gets wagi sliwagi, Nimakitaloda, Honita and Gwahanege, Ani, Bozo, Dante, Okinapi, How, uh, Yamko, Yukodanos. Let me actually change this. Okay, I think that's better. So, for anyone who's new here, I just introduced myself. I always introduce myself in my original language, so I said Siguli Swagwag, which means hello everyone. Galahindi Neogets. So Galahindi is my name, and it translates to clouds passing over in the colonial language. I'm a member of the people of the Standing Stone First Nations on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Delaware, and Huron nations in an area that we call the Dish with One Spoon Covenant Treaty Territory. And so, in a colonial context, I'm on the northern part of Turtle Island, the part that's been segregated and relabeled Canada. And within that confines of that, I am in a park called Southwestern Ontario. I said Yalko, Yukodona, or thank you, friends, for being here. And so today, we're just going to do a bit of a mix of content, which is kind of um, discussing water and why should we care about it? I mean, it's just water, and we have lots of it, and that's kind of the misconception that we have, and you'll understand that once you see this. So I know that there are a number of documentaries coming out, and some that have come out already, that I am trying to get access to so that we can share them here, particularly ones that deal with the indigenous community. Actually, now that I bring that up, I'm going to actually go back to this way. So there's a documentary that was put out um, about a rally in Standing Rock, South Dakota, which happened a number of years ago and is still currently being fought in the court systems. There's been a stall on the movement of the progress, which ultimately is a good thing in some people's eyes, and not so much in others. If you're have corporate interests, you would not find it very very good to have this stalling for so long. So I'm going to show you a trailer for a film called End of the Line: The Women of Standing Rock. Um, and this is happening in the USA. In Canada, we have something called Wet'suwet'en, which has ultimately gone through or is going through some very similar issues, and are fighting to try to get issues out there resolved. And welcome in, Galloway. Yonko, for being here, and Lost. Um, nice to see you. So I'm going to show you the trailer for two films. One is called End of the Line: The Women of Standing Rock, who are the women who started the battle at Standing Rock to oppose a pipeline that, again, corporations are trying to force through indigenous lands. And I, the key here, I think, to a certain point, is to understand this is not an indigenous issue. This is an issue for all humans, because the water, once it's poisoned, doesn't see color. It doesn't see race. It doesn't see anything other than the fact that it's dirty. And whoever drinks it is going to be drinking contaminated water. Whether you are black, white, indigenous, it doesn't matter. So this is the reason we want to bring this to people's attention, is that, if indigenous people who have been for uh, time immemorial the stewards of this land and have been taking care of it, have lost that control. And with that loss of control, we have seen an increase in the contamination of our waters, and we're seeing this in colonized countries all over the world. So this is something we just need to really be aware of as to what's going on, and and take action, because if we don't address this, then we're seeing the effects of that, along with climate change and other things. Um, yeah, you had. I was in your stream for a little while. We had. I guess you had just taken a nap, um, and or were just starting to nap for a few hours, and had someone filling in for you. So we had a little chit chat, which was nice. Um, I hope it went well overall. Lasso, for those who don't know, every year for the last, I think, 4 years now, has been doing a Christmas 4-day Christmas time stream, and it's just allows people a chance, particularly people who may not have family or friends and be celebrating with others, to have a place to go and just hang out and chat and talk about things. So just finished that. Um, so, um, but if you haven't already followed Lost Sioux, um, definitely. Let me actually. I'll do this just to make sure we get this. And I'll give you the link up at the top here. So all you have to do is click on that heart if you're not already following. So that'll be an easy way to check them out. And growing the community is all about what we want to do, so that our message gets out to more people. So if you can follow Lasso and learn something from him, then certainly do that, and then share what you learn, because it's one thing to come and support streamers, particularly trying to educate and bring awareness about issues. But once you have that information and that knowledge, you need to be sharing it with other people, so that the message gets out gets out and it has that ripple effect of growing and expanding. So here is again the first trailer. This one is called "End of the Line," and this was about the rally. So and the other thing I also kind of I guess people might call it semantics. Um, People might call whatever they want to. Generally, most people call these protests, and I I kind of have an issue with the fact that they're calling it protests, primarily because these are not, you know, particularly the indigenous people who are doing this are not protesters. These are people who are protecting the land, and protecting the water. So they're protectors. They're activists, not protesters. So you can call them whatever you like in the end, but ultimately, I think that we need to kind of take that um, take that into consideration. That's what they're doing, is they're protecting, not protesting. So this is anyway. This is the first documentary, and once I get a hold of a copy of this, I will be sharing it. But you'll understand why once you see this.
For years, people have fought this struggle, fought for our land and water. And I was at a point where I felt like nobody cared. We're just people from here that stood up and asked everybody to come and stand with us. And they did.
Criminals! By the criminals! The original pipeline was to go through North Dakota, but it was going through white people's land. So they redirected it, put it through the Indians.
What it all comes down to is wanting clean drinking water for our children.
One family. If we don't stand, who will?
And we are peaceful, prayerful people, but it's come to a point now where enough is enough.
Love is the strongest.
The world is run by corporations now. Who's kidding who? Democracy.
Our prayers would not be needed. Indigenous wisdom unheeded and sacred things depleted.
Are you telling the dogs to bite the protesters?
What is the fossil fuel? Continued destruction, nothing new.
I hear the rubber bullet. I see this one just coming straight for my eye.
Taking our children, shifting their feelings till nothing's true.
How many people know that the United States didn't allow us to raise our own families? We won that right in 1985.
They just put the fear in us so bad with hell and with that belt and with abuse. They'd come after you at night and take you someplace and made you do things you didn't want to do, and you thought it was your fault.
So when people ask, why is this the end of the line? Why are women standing up and saying, no, this is it?
Water is life!
It's because they've seen this happen to their children before.
We're disconnected, these times are hectic and feeling.
The earth is not something we pollute, we take advantage of, that we rape. The earth is our mother.
That's why we walk with prayer. And if that wasn't true, we wouldn't be standing here.
Nobody thought any politician would have the guts. And I just closed my eyes and said, do it.
We're still going to pursue the legal avenues. I have to leave a footprint.
People, hold your ground. Change is coming now.
The rhetoric is over. It's time for action.
Sogoli Arkajaz, Sogoli Swagwag, Galahindi New gets Wagi Sliwagi, Niwakidoloda, Anita Arkingwanage, Ani Bojo, Dante, Okinapi, How, Yonko, Yukodonas. For those who have come in with the raid, I always introduce myself in my original language. So first of all, Arkajaz, thank you so much for bringing your community over. I appreciate that. For those of you who don't know, Arkajaz plays guitar and very mean guitar. So definitely, you want to hear some guitar licks. Definitely give him a follow. Oh my God, a double raid. Okay, Charlie. Golly. I'll give a moment here for everyone to get in. Let me. So I said, Sugoli Swagwag, Galihindi Neo Gats, Wagi Sliwagi Niwakitaloda, Anita Agangwanaga, Ani, Bojo, Dance, Okinapi, How, Yanko, Yukadonas. And also, for anybody who's been here on any kind of regular basis probably knows who Charlie is now, because I always we talk about what he did with the Peaceful Warrior Project and making me sound listenable and palatable. And I appreciate all the work he did on that. So what I was saying is I always introduce myself in my original language. So I said, hello, everyone. My name is Galahindi. I'm on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Delaware, and Huron nations, here on the traditional lands of in what we call Southwest, what colonizers call Southwestern Ontario. We call the Dish with One Spoon Covenant Treaty Territory, which in a colonial context means I'm in an area that we call Southwestern Ontario. In the northern part of Turtle Island, it's been segregated and relabeled Canada. And Ksenia, hi, welcome in. And nice to see you. Yanko for being here. So today we're actually kind of doing a little bit of I'm going to share a talk with a woman named Layla Stats, or Layla Black. She kind of goes by both names. And talking about water and the importance of the water. Now, from Layla Stats' perspective, it's going to be from an Indigenous point of view. However, this is not an Indigenous issue, as we were just discussing. This is an issue for all people, because once the water is contaminated and poisoned, it doesn't see color, it doesn't see race, and it doesn't see gender. It just sees the fact that it's contaminated, and whoever drinks it is drinking contaminated water. So when you see the rallies that Indigenous people are organizing in places like Standing Rock or Wet'suwet'en or Southwestern Ontario, with Autumn Peltier doing her activism, these types of things are because we're trying to protect the water for everyone, for future generations, for the next 7 generations, because that's what our teachings always tell us, is always consider what we do today is going to be affecting the next 7 generations before we'll be able to see change. So I just showed a documentary for a film called End of the Line, Women of Standing Rock. I'm going to show one more short trailer for another film that Layla Black has just done. It's her newest documentary. It's called Boil Alert, and you'll understand kind of why the Indigenous perspective. And it's actually, I'll put it in here. So my Ruscular is asking me about my name. So it's spelled like this, and it's pronounced Gal Lu, and I'm gonna put it in phonetically so you can see. Um, so if you break it down into syllables, it's a lot easier. So Gal, like a girl, Gal, and then Lu, like the guy's name. So Gal Lu, and then Hugh. Oh, I spelled Hugh wrong. Anyway, so it's Gal Lu Hugh, and then it's got that N sound at the end of Hugh. So Gal Lu Hyun D. And it means clouds passing over in the colonial language, or the English language, if you will. Um, so there you go. Uh, so I'm sharing this talk with Layla Black, and before I share that talk, I'm going to show you uh, her trailer for her latest documentary that she just put out. It's right now. It's in the film festivals, kind of doing its film festival tour. And again, so it'll be a little while before I'll be able to get this documentary, but I will let you see this anyway here. So because once I do get access to it, I'm gonna want to share this with you.
I was seen as an outsider coming in to the reserve. I was an outsider everywhere. They call it the Red Road when you start to learn about your indigenous culture. Segoskano, Layla Black Young Yats, Anawara, Ni Wagi Darodan, Ganyak Gehaga. I'm Ganyak Gehaga. I'm Mohawk. I am Mohawk. My papa always said, whoever has the clean water at the end, they're the ones that are gonna thrive. Make sure that you figure out a way to get clean water. I'm looking at boil water advisories and I see every single one, First Nations, First Nations, First Nations, First Nations. And I just hear my papa in my head saying, now's the time. Our people need clean water. My hope for this journey is to understand why this is happening, as well as to discover who I am as an Indigenous woman, finding that voice within myself.
What are some of the challenges that you're facing?
We've got bad water, and it's not safe to drink right now.
Checking into the hotel, first thing that I saw was the boil water advisory.
Don't get it in your eyes. Don't open your mouth in the shower. It's a reality check.
How many generations has your family been drinking this water?
I know of 7 generations.
7 generations.
8 double loaders, and we got 2 of them running. We've got a problem with the flow of water in them.
These people live with it every single day.
We're in California, in the U.S., off the 101. You can go on either side and you can get clean water up and down, but here on the reserve, how is it that those guys don't have clean water?
Help's not coming. Never has.
What's your position here?
I'm the acting water supervisor.
Who does all the testing?
I do.
How many people do you have working here?
Currently 2. We just got a new guy yesterday.
This is where they dispose of the uranium?
A lot of the Navajos that lived along it are now dead from cancer. That's why you don't hear about it. They don't want to tell us. You have to find out on your own.
Water is not just a resource. We are not respecting it. We are not taking care of it.
These things were told to me by the elders. Maybe in your time, you'll see this, you'll see that. I've been watching the earth and the vegetation and the birds, the insects. All of those things are telling me there are strange things happening. It's not like how it used to be.
So that was Boil Alert. That film is out in the film festivals at the moment, doing its film festival tour. And so for those of you who just came in with either of those raids, what I'm going to share next is going to be a talk by the film director of that film, named Layla Stats. So it's about half an hour long. So what I'm going to do before we before we get to that, let me actually, I'm going to share a quick music video. This is a song called The Peaceful Warrior, and Charlie is really put this together. I recorded the vocals, and then Charlie took it and did all the hard work. And so I'm going to show you this. This will give you an opportunity as well to grab a drink or grab a snack, so that once the talk starts, you're probably not going to want to miss any of her speech. So let me get this started, and then I'll get my mug off the screen here. The people that you see in this video are streamers who have taken on the challenge of doing this project, and I am honored that so many people have put their talents out there to share in this project. So this again is called The Peaceful Warrior.
My name is Gallo Hyundai. My name is Gallo Hyundai. My name is Gallo Hyundai, and I'm a war for peace. All senseless attacks I see must cease. So what am I doing here? What do I really want to say? Is that this world has got to change its way. See, I'm going to fight for the red, white, yellow, and black. I'm going to fight for the ones who can't fight back. And I'm talking about all the preachers, from the water to the skies. I'm talking about all the issues, from the truth to the lies. And I'm gonna make my stand with a paper and a pen. You wanna argue that? Go back to bed again. Cause you're never gonna win against what I stand for. So sit down, shut up, and listen as I give you my grand tour. See, I'm going to target the corruption in the government. I'm going to target the poison in our environment. I'm going to target the injustices to the people. I'm going to hit every target, or I won't keep still. See, I'm going to battle the battle of the battles. I'm going to shake up the cage until it rattles. You're never going to get rid of me. Not until the problems of the world are cut at the knee. You know what I'm saying? Let me get this out one more time, so crystal clear is the message in my rhyme. I said my name is Gallo Hyundai, and I'm a war for peace. All senseless attacks I see must cease. I'm going to fight for the red, white, yellow, and black. I'm going to fight for the ones who can't fight back. So let's keep passing around our information, so we can improve this planet through education. Somebody's got to make the people aware. Someone's got to make everybody care. So pass that message on, if you dare. And whether it's mine or yours, we all got to share. Because there's more power in one man's voice than all the weapons of military choice. Now you put your voice with my voice, we can shout out loud that we belong to the human race and that we are proud. You don't have to be a master of science to see that we need to create a worldwide alliance in order to approach the corporations that's asking people for their insubordinations. When they bring up what's happening to our waters and the diseases spread to our slaughters. And what about the government officials who stand behind them? Their backdoor handshakes and verbal deals that bind them. We have seen how the world can be devastated through the actions of men with minds of hatred. Look at Hitler, Charlie Manson, and even Osama. These are the men who've caused us trauma. I said these are the men who've caused us trauma. Then we have cops and hookers in the backseats. We have punk-ass teens knifing each other in the streets. We have drug dealers hooking up kids with crack. Why, there's a lot of shit in this world that's just whack. We have people who stand up for the rights and get shot down. Well, you better batten down the hatches. Because we heading into the next round. Because there's no getting to a war without losses. Lenin, King, Gandhi, they're all on symbolic crosses. Now the speakers of the past are going to inspire the speakers of the future. We're gonna try to heal this world with a metaphorical suture. I said my name's Galagini, and I'm a war for peace. All senseless attacks I see must cease. But I won't be able to move this world all alone. So just remember that this is also your home. So if I put my voice with your voice and we shout out together, people are gonna hear us. And things are gonna get better. Done it. All my relations. Peace. All my relations. Done it. Peace. All of my relations.
Sego. That's how we say hello in Mohawk. Can you guys try that? Sego. Very good. Sego, Skanagoga, Leila Stats Young Yats, Ah Nuara Niwagita Roden, Ganyak Gehaga Niwago Wendroden, Oswego Nidawageno. I said, hello, my name's Leila Stats. I am Mohawk Turtle Clan from the Six Nations of the Grand River. You heard my bio, which gives a good overview of who I am. But before we get into my speech today, I wanted to start us off in a very special way. I'm sure we've all heard many land acknowledgements over the last few years. And as an Indigenous person, it's hard to keep hearing land acknowledgements without land action. So I was really pleased with Jagmeet and how he discussed how we should approach land acknowledgements. I wanted to share a practice of ours as Haudenosaunee from the Six Nations. We have what was called the Ahoda Gariwadegwa. You may have heard of it as the Thanksgiving Address. This translates to the words before all else. So nothing of significance would ever happen without first bringing our minds together for our land acknowledgement. And it's deeper than an acknowledgement, it's a relationship, your land relationship, your land responsibility. So I worked with an elder in my community, Dayahunde Miller, and we created this short video. Now, when we're in ceremony, this acknowledgement can take up to 3 hours to go through all of these elements of life and creation, but we've shortened it to under 3 minutes. So I ask for your commitment to be present in these three minutes, to acknowledge your relationship. It's not just about giving thanks. We're not just thankful for the water and the trees and the animals. We are in relationship with them. So when you think about a relationship, maybe your spouse, your partner, your friend, your sister, we think about it, what they can do for us, what we can do for them, and how we can do better. So I want you to think about that with all of these elements as they come through. Can I have that commitment from you? Okay. Nyawa. So it was seen anytime 3 or more people gathered, it was seen as a ceremony. We have many more than 3 here today. So we are in ceremony. And we start that way to bring our minds together. And it's said that anything that we do, anything we create, anything that comes from this ceremony will be that much more powerful when we are connected to our relationship, to all elements of life. It's interesting that the theme is organize, fight, and win. My people have been fighting for acknowledgement, fighting to be heard since contact. We know what it is to fight. And as I looked back at the Indigenous people, at the Ongwahonwe, the original people, It's these intentional divisions that have weakened us. And I think that we can see that in our society as well. This journey as a generational survivor of residential schools, I've been reclaiming my culture, reclaiming my language, fighting for it. It was taken from me. And our government systems, they like to tippy-toe around the fact and call it cultural genocide. But when we look at the graves, it wasn't rattles and drums that were in those graves. It was children. This was real genocide. So this journey of understanding who I am as a Mohawk woman, reclaiming that for myself, fighting for that myself, has led me down a path to understand my connection to the water, understand my connection to the land, that it knows me, that it speaks to me, that it hears me. That journey has resulted in me being handcuffed, thrown in a jail cell, paraded around courtrooms, on the local news. Called a terrorist. And I remember standing on that front line in Wet'suwet'en, in BC, standing with the hereditary chiefs of that land, the traditional stewards of that land that have been taking care of it since time immemorial. And I remember seeing police approaching, this wave of colonial violence, hundreds of RCMP in formation, marching towards me, helicopters circling us, attack dogs barking and snarling and pulling at their chains, ready to be let go. And in that moment, I remember thinking, what am I gonna do? I'm gonna be arrested. And I had to ask myself a very hard question. Whose laws do I live by? Whose laws control me? Are they the laws of the state that is trying to intimidate me, that is bringing this violence to me and my people? Or is there a greater law? For us, the water is a living relative. It is not a commodity. It is not a resource. It is not meant to be bought and sold, traded. It's a brother. It's a sister. It is part of our family. And when I tasted that river, the Wenzikwa, and that fight is still going on, when I tasted that river and put it to my lips, I thought of all of the generations, your generation as well, that would never drink from a clean river. My children may never drink from a clean river. Yet our system wants to destroy it, put a pipeline under it for money. You can't eat money. You can't drink oil. And people ask me, why did I do it? Why were you willing to put your body, your safety, your life, your reputation, your brand, your business on the line in that moment? And I ask you, if it was your mother who was being raped and pillaged, cut open, poisoned, killed, what would you do? You would stand up and you would fight back. So when I looked at that water, when I stood on that bridge in that moment and made that decision to stand there, not to retreat, not to hide, but to stand there and defend that water, it was as if I was defending my family. And this is the relationship that we need to create with the world around us, with each other. I love what Jagmeet said, that we are one. But it's not just the one in this room. It's not just the one of humankind. It is the one of the water, the one of the land, the rocks, the trees, the animals. We are all one. I've been doing a lot of talks recently with teachers and students. I was at 3 different schools this week, and one of the most powerful things is when these little kids come up to me and they say, "Miss Stotts, I said hi to the river yesterday. My family drove past and I said hi." And then I was speaking to, over the weekend, and a group of grown-ups came up to me and they said, "Guess what we did? We said hi to the river because it is alive." And I had a really interesting experience with the ETFO, the Elementary Teacher Federation of Ontario. I'm trying to learn the acronyms. I'm trying to figure them all out and remember them in my head. And a teacher messaged me on Instagram after my talk. She said, "I woke up this morning and I couldn't stop thinking about what you were sharing." She said, "I woke up with this thought of what would I be willing to be arrested for?" And it was like, wow, like this light bulb explosion moment inside of me. A teacher considering being arrested, what would she be willing to be arrested for? And for me, that is a sign of change. It is a sign that we are coming out of this colonial oppression. We are challenging the status quo. We are not willing just to sit back and say, the government says it's this way, so that's the way it is. We are ready to stand up and fight back. And I remember when I was on that front line about to be arrested, my kids' teachers actually popped into my head. You know, I was thinking, what are my kids gonna think with a mother who's been handcuffed and thrown in jail? What are their teachers gonna think of me? What about all of the work that I do with youth and students? Those attack dogs don't know what a good person I am. All they know is to follow an order. Those police officers didn't know what a good person I am. All they knew was to follow an order. But that one teacher who said, maybe we should think about this. Maybe we shouldn't just follow orders. Maybe we should decide for ourselves whose laws we live by. And the laws that we live by, we should control them. We have the power. Our society has made us think that we are small. We are controlled by corporations, by this top 3% that owns everything, that runs everything, makes all of the decisions. And we felt powerless to that. But let me remind you, we are the 97%. It is those divisions that have been created within ourselves, within our genders, our races, our occupations, these divisions that have been meant to take our power. And you've heard it here many times today. When we come together, we are unstoppable. And I've seen that in the Indigenous resistance. I've seen these divisions that have been implemented by colonial society, whether it's band councils, hereditary chiefs, money, all of this has created these divisions that weaken us. But when we stand in solidarity, when we show up for each other, we bring that 97% together. And that's why I would like to remind you that these issues of Indigenous issues of land back, water rights, they are not just Indigenous issues. And when we stand together, that's when real change can happen. I mentioned this at the convention in November. I think it was the Equity and Diversity Convention. Do you remember at the beginning of the pandemic when we ran out of toilet paper? Right? And we kind of chuckle about it now, but there was a fear. There was this feeling that there is not enough of something. The shelves are empty. People are fighting in the parking lots. People are hoarding. Their basements are filled with toilet paper. Now, I want you to flip that switch in your mind, and toilet paper becomes water. There is a limited supply. Only the rich have access to water. I recently just came back from Paris, France. I was asked to be an international delegate for World Water Day. So I got to meet people from all over the world, Colombia, West Africa, Brazil, Chile, who were all there to speak for their water issues. In Chile, if you have enough money, you can buy a river. Are we so far off from that? I don't think so. When we look at the corporations and the top 3%, and the way that they want to privatize our healthcare, privatize water, we're on the brink. This is a very pivotal moment for us as that 97% to say no. Now we talk about the wins. And for us, the wins, they don't often come in the courts, in the legislation, in policy, from politicians. They come on the front line, they come on the land. And it reminded me of an action that happened not long ago where union members took over Yonge and College, Dundas Square, shut down Dundas Square with, I think there was only like 20 people. And in those moments of resistance, the wins, they come from that solidarity. They come from us standing together. In that moment on the bridge, when the police were about to arrest me, did I stop the pipeline? No, it's still going. It's still being built. They're still drilling. Did I get land back for my people? No. But it's those moments of resistance, those moments of saying no, they matter. They catch like wildfire. They spread. And maybe those 20 union members that shut down Dundas Square, maybe they didn't win on a big scale, but they proved to themselves that they could. They proved to themselves that they could shut down a road. My charges for water protection were moved to criminal charges because the police said that I was using my platform to inspire others to break the law. I'm not inspiring you to break the law. I'm asking you to decide whose laws you live by. When we fight, it is not easy. It's much easier not to. It's much easier to go about our day, bury our heads in the sand, pretend that there's not a problem, pretend that there's not an issue. Let someone else take care of it. And I ask people all the time, do you know where your water comes from? Do you know where it goes when it goes down the drain? Most people do not. We have been completely disconnected, and that was intentional. So that we would not have the power, so that we would not have the knowledge, so that we would let someone else take care of us. I'm sure someone is watching the water, right? I'm sure somebody has to be protecting it, but they're not. They're protecting their bottom line. They're protecting their wallets and their bank accounts. when we think about that situation of the pandemic and the toilet paper, and we think about that situation in reference to water, it is not so far off. First Nations people are already living in those situations. I recently came back from Niskandiga, which just passed 10,000 days on a boil water advisory. I won't make you do the math, but that's 27 years. 27 years boil water advisory, and the community right now is in a state of emergency, not because of their water issue, but because of their youth suicide. I sat down with the chief, Chris, who you may have seen on the news. He's going up against this ring of fire, yet another corporate grab at money that should stay in the ground. And he said to me, Layla, I have performed CPR on 26 youth in my community, and I have not been able to save one. And in that moment, I saw a man who was broken. I saw a man who couldn't help the youth in his community. The future for his community was slipping through his hands, and he didn't know what to do. This is a reality right now. Right now. It's not something that could, maybe, might happen. It's happening. This community is on a 1.7 liter ration of water per day. 1.7 liters per person, per family. I delivered those bottles of water myself. Each house got their designated amount. I ask if anyone knows how much water it takes to flush a toilet. At least 4 liters. I was in a hotel bathroom over there, and I don't know what was going on with the bathroom, the toilet, but it just kept flushing over and over and over again. And as I'm sitting there, I'm being enraged, thinking of people in communities that don't have access like this. And here we are privileged to take it for granted that a toilet can flush all day long. I want to share with you some of my work. I've been recently working on a brand new documentary where I traveled to 7 different communities under boil water advisories. And I sat in their homes. I spoke with their elders, their youth, and it was life-changing for me. It made me realize how privileged a life I live. I spoke with one of the elders you'll see on the video from the Navajo Nation. And in the Navajo, they live in the desert where water is scarce. And he said each family would treat water, they would bring it into their home, they would wash themselves, every person, they would wash all of their dishes and their clothes and their floors, and they would use it 4 or 5 times before they would put it outside for Mother Earth. And he said in a matter of 10 years of development and industry, their water there is radioactive. They call it the silent genocide because the Navajo elders, their life expectancy is less than 55 years old. Every person I spoke to knew someone that had cancer. And I like to think that once you learn something, you can't unlearn it. It's like our mind expands. And once we have this new knowledge, we can't go back to being this small little mind. We know now. We know now that there's people that are struggling with access to water. We know now that there are people, children, who feel like they don't exist. And that was probably one of the most profound statements that came from a youth in Grassy Narrows. And I sat with her, and she was the most beautiful young lady, but covered on her arms and legs were scars, cuts, hundreds of cuts. And when I asked her what was going on, she said it feels like we don't exist. No one in this country should feel like they don't exist. You think about this idea of fight, and Indigenous people, we've been fighting. And our government, our colonial state, they're banking on the fact that we're too broken, too divided, too tired to fight back. They're actually banking on all of us being too broken, too tired to fight back. But if you look at some of the biggest acts of resistance in history and in our fight anyways, you may remember Shut Down Canada. Shut Down Canada, where Indigenous, non-Indigenous allies came together across Turtle Island for one cause. And it was in response to the Wet'suwet'en crisis, the water crisis, that stemmed this movement of Shut Down Canada. But it became bigger than that. And when we all come together and we put our differences aside, our nations, our tribes, our languages, our ancestry, we put that all aside, we come together, we have the power. You have, in this room right now, you have the power to shut down Canada. Don't forget that. It's intentional that we have been brainwashed to believe that we are individuals. We are not. We are one. And when we work together as that 97%, we can shut it all down. We control this country. We have the power. And one of the ways that I know that is because of this path I've taken to understand my connection to life, of all living things, water especially. We see water as sacred. It is, my son, Billy, who you may have seen, a little, really cute baby, he came and he was 9 months in my water, my sacred waters. You spent 9 months in your mother's sacred waters. She spent 9 months in your grandmother's sacred waters. And water, it knows us, it remembers, it has a life force. And I'm like one of those science nerds. I like to back things up by science. And so when I found out about the study by Dr. Matsumoto, Google it, check him out. He did this incredible scientific study in a lab on the impact of our energy towards water. He would speak words to it: love, hope, kindness, compassion. Or they would speak words of hate, anger, rage, jealousy. And what he observed under the microscope was truly amazing. And it was validation of what my ancestors had been saying since time immemorial. Water is alive. And under the microscope, you can visibly see how the crystallization in this water changed, depending on the words that were spoken to it. Water is life. And we sing for the water. I want to sing a song for you, and it's called the Mohawk Water Song. And I sing this song for the water, but I sing it for you, because there is water inside of you. And for me, it's like a superhuman, superpower strength that I can activate. And you can too. So when I sing this song for you, I want you to feel that water inside of you come alive. I want you to feel it vibrate within you. Because this is the power that the state has no control over. This is the power that they tried to sever from Indigenous people. Because it makes us unstoppable. When we are truly connected to each other, to the land, to the water, and life around us, we are unstoppable. Yungana lungwa honega, yungana lungwa honega, ganega yolo, ganega nolo, gaya nya heya. Yungana lungwa honega, yungana lungwa honega, ganega yolo, ganega nolo, gaya nya heya. Yona Yahweh, Howe, Yona Yahweh, Howe, Ganega Yolo, Ganega Nolo, Gayan Yahweh, Yungana Lungwa Onega, Yungana Lungwa Onega, Ganega Yolo, Ganega Nolo, Gayan Yahweh, Yo. So I hope that you feel that vibration, you feel it resonating inside of you, and you carry that in your life, with your family, with your coworkers, and with this pivotal moment that we are in, where our voice matters. When we stand in solidarity, when we stand together, when we stand as this force, we cannot be stopped. One of the things I want to leave you with is this ability that we have to show up for each other. I know with our movement at Land Back Lane and with Land Back in general, it's those moments when people show up. I had a grade 5 student ask me, I was speaking at a grade 5 class, and she said, Layla, I'm only in grade 5. I don't have any political contacts. What can I do to save the water? And as she was standing there in front of me, I thought, you know what? There's probably a lot of grown-ups out there that might feel exactly the same. What can I do? I'm just one person. Yeah, I can flush my toilet less, but like one person, what can I do? And I challenge you to remove that idea that you are just one person. We are all connected. And I challenge you to take one thing from this keynote speech that impacted you, that opened your eyes, that changed the way that you feel and see life, and use your voice. So it is not just an Indigenous issue that water is a human right. It is a human issue that water is a human right. And Land Back is not just an Indigenous issue. And it's interesting, I saw so many gathered on Queen's Park to protest the developments and this idea of progress that Doug Ford has. And I stood on the site, Gunestado, which is one of the original reclamation sites on Six Nations from 2006, if you look it up, where the community came together and they said no to development. They occupied that land and they won. And as I walked it through the land, it looked like, you could see it looked like weeds. Most people would be like, oh man, this is just overgrown with weeds. But for me, I saw all this diversity. I saw Mother Nature reclaiming that land. And I thought, this is progress. This is what progress should be. So I may not have stopped a pipeline. I may not have changed any laws or legislation or, had any sort of political gains from being arrested. But that moment of saying no, that moment of standing up and fighting back, not conforming to colonial violence, it mattered. And I hope that it inspires you to ask what you are willing to fight for. What you are willing to put it all on the line for. And for us, we look 7 generations into the future. Every action, every decision that we make, all of these votes that you make today, 7 generations into the future, what will they mean? Those moments when you pick up a sign and you go down that march and you shut down that street, or you protest, or you drop a banner, or you take action, you stand up and say no. It matters, and it will spread like a fire. So for that little grade 5 student and all of us today here, I want you to take what you've learned and I want you to use your voice. Land back is your issue. Water is your issue because it is for our future. It is for those next generations. And we all stand together. So thank you so much for having me here today. I'm honored to be a part of OPSEU. I feel like people ask me all the time, is it worth it? Was it worth it? Has anything changed? And for me, I may not get an invitation from Justin Trudeau to come to shake his hand and say, hey, we finally got all your people water. But I know that this change is not going to come from the top down. Unfortunately, my people have a very distrusting relationship with politics and politicians and governments. So I don't believe that it's going to be our prime minister, our cabinet, or any of those pieces of government that are going to make this change. It is going to come from the ground up. We are going to create a new Canada, a new Ontario from the ground up. And it's going to take every single one of us acting as one. Stop seeing ourselves as individuals and start seeing us as that 97% that can take it over, because we can and we will. So thank you so much for having me here. I'm honored, I'm blessed, and I can't wait to see you guys in solidarity. Thank you.
Siguli. And again, that was Leila Stats and doing her talk. So what she was talking about as far as Wet'suwet'en is Wet'suwet'en is a territory on the west coast of what we call Canada. And there is a corporation trying to run a pipeline under their clean drinking water source. It's a river that people can still actually drink out of. And those are becoming fewer and far between and harder to find. So it's imperative that we protect that water. And so Leila Stats, along with her brother Logan Stats, and her partner Skylar Williams, Skylar Williams, are all from Six Nations of Grand River. And so members of the six, and they are also part of what we call 1492 Land Back Lane. And they all went out to Wet'suwet'en to stand with the people there to help protect the water and stop the pipeline from being built. So I'm going to show you next a documentary talking about the invasion of Wet'suwet'en. Now, before I do that, again, just to give you a little chance to grab a snack or a drink, I'm going to share a song that Layla Black just released. And Swim with Whales, welcome in. Nice to see you. So this song was just released, and you can stream it on your favorite platforms, whether it's YouTube or Apple Music, or if you are so inclined to use Spotify, I'm sure it's there too. So this is a song she wrote describing her experience at Wet'suwet'en. And so I'm going to get this, and then I'll go right into a documentary called Invasion, which is going to cover, it's not a long one, it's a short documentary, but it's going to tell you a bit about the experience the Wet'suwet'en people had trying to protect their land and their water.
This song deserves an introduction. The Haudenosaunee call the white pine the their sacred headwaters. I remember that moment standing on that. This song deserves an introduction. The Haudenosaunee call the white pine the tree of peace. The peacemaker's journey tells the story of how our nations came together and buried their hatchets, buried their weapons underneath the roots of the white pine. I took this song with me to the Wet'suwet'en territory to defend the Wenzigua, their sacred headwaters. I remember that moment standing on that bridge with matriarchs and elders and land defenders and chiefs and watching as hundreds of police mobilized against us coming up to the bridge. There was military greens across the side with sniper rifles, attack dogs pulling at their chains, helicopters overhead. And as I watched this wall of violence coming towards us, something inside of me said, Layla, sing. And a cappella on my own on this broken bridge, I sang for a wall of police. I sang, even if no one listened. I sang. White pine, I come in peace. White pine, down on my knees.
You guys always come and interrupt our prayers or eating. And they seem to time it.
Okay, good morning.
What's up?
We have a complaint that there was a box on the bridge.
I didn't see no box.
Okay, it's the box right there that was painted black. Okay, and the young girl at 8:30 came this morning and removed it.
She just said it had kindling in there. Maybe somebody forgot it when we were doing ceremony last night.
Okay, because we got complaints that there was lots of activity on the bridge last night.
Ceremony. Look at the flags. We did a water ceremony because they're trying to destroy our water. I'm just getting annoyed of their bullshit tactics. They're trying to make us look bad and send you guys all the time. And every time they do stuff to us, it takes you guys 2 hours to get here.
So you're blessing the water last night on the bridge, or?
We're doing prayers for the water because it's in danger right now because of this BS that's happening right now. It's not just this. They destroyed our traps, destroyed our trap line. Conservation wouldn't come till they already cleared. All of this adds up. And you got to understand our frustration. We've been here since time immemorial before anybody came to these lands, and your law can bend the rules to let somebody come in and destroy our land. And you get you guys to help them. If it was your house, you'd feel the same if the same vandals keep coming and wrecking your shit and nobody's doing anything. I was here 10 years and it took a long time to put these stuff up. They're here 1 week and they want to destroy it all. Nowhere in the injunction does it tell them they can frickin' ruin my stuff. I'm pissed.
What's in quoi? What's in quoi? Unis toten hapayen haonten Unis toten
Can you clap one time in front of your face?
Thinking of what are some of the challenges and also positive things that have come out of the last year?
Well, in the last year, it's been busy. Everybody needs to stand up, not just Indigenous people. Everybody needs to stand up to the political powers that be, that they need to change. And quit making legislation and policies to make us look like criminals when we're just trying to protect what is ours. It's not just this little courthouse. The whole world is watching what Canada is doing, what the province of BC is doing. They haven't done their job. They're skirting the responsibility over to industry. And I know I'm doing the right thing.
It's good to see some more Wet'suwet'en.
Yeah.
That were funding.
There you go.
Yes. And they were building all of it.
Oh boy. It's sad.
There's some bannock there and some moose heart and chili on the stove.
Hey, I didn't even know you were
There's
here.
a plate if you like. Ready. Do asla.
sorry, I don't understand.
Skidamden Bianca.
My name is Vic, and I'm with the Coastal GasLink project. And the reason for Mr. Couture to be here is to post the injunction that was granted by the BC Supreme Court to allow us access to do the work.
Canadian courts do not have any jurisdiction on Wet'suwet'en territories. The Wet'suwet'en hereditary chiefs have full jurisdiction. We have for thousands of years, since time immemorial. We have never ceded or surrendered any of that jurisdiction. So I am not here to argue that point with you.
So we're going to post the injunction. You're not going to allow us through to get to the bridge with what access we have or what...
I have nothing stopping you from accessing the bridge. On the other side of the bridge is a different territory. This is Skidamden territory. You're trespassing on Wet'suwet'en land! And you continue to remove us forcibly from our lands with your rifles, with your semi-automatic weapons. Nothing has changed in 150 years.
Also keeping our eyes on the planned demonstrations across the country, all in support of anti-pipeline protesters in British Columbia. 14 people were arrested at the protest site late yesterday.
That sparked a stand of solidarity across the countries. Rallies were staged in dozens of cities, even some in the U.S., in support of the anti-pipeline protesters. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau could face heat over the issue tonight. He's in Kamloops, BC, hosting a town hall.
Trudeau has made improved relations with Indigenous people a core priority of his government.
You in the striped scarf. Yes.
Hello, my name is Tilly. I come from the Statium Nation. I want to ask you, what are you going to do to stop oppressing and holding our people under your colonization? When are you going to give us our rights back? When are you going to start giving a shit about who we are as people and not seeing us just for our land?
I believe that the conflict that you're making it into out west, with helicopters flying overhead and paramilitaries showing up with assault rifles, is appalling. And so I'm more or less here to tell you that that's shameful.
What you did to the Unistoten, that's a national disgrace. January 7th was a national disgrace of Canada.
It's inspiring to see the support worldwide that we have, and it's not just our Indigenous people that are standing up, it's people all around the world are concerned about the environment, and concerned because they know it impacts them no matter where they live. So yeah, with that injunction and such low numbers out here, all of the Wet'suwet'en chiefs, because of what happened at 44, were afraid for us that were still up here at the camp, and they didn't want any of us to get hurt. So out of fear, they made their decision to get us to stand back, and we made a decision that it was too demoralizing, that we weren't going to take down those gates. If they wanted them down, they had to do it.
This is my people's land way before the settlers came here. And you think you have a right to come on our land and destroy it? It's not right. My people have history here. The partners that have signed, they have no history here. And I hope you can go home and sleep tonight.
We started coming back here in 2009 when we wanted to put a cabin here and realized that we safely could drink this water, so this became our prime point on where we wanted to spend more of our time. This is the proposed corridor for multiple pipelines, and we decided to move out here because we realized we couldn't protect our territories from afar. We're 2 hours away, and because they kept on trying to come in.
Who are you?
My name is Rod.
Where are you
I'm
from?
with Chevron, representing the Pacific Trail Pipeline Project. We're here today because we'd like to do work on the territory, and we're requesting access to the territory here today so that Wet'suwet'en people can work and see the benefits from our project.
We've already said no to these projects and that no pipelines will come on our territory. And we only have 2 territories left out of all our territories because of other people occupying our lands and agriculture, municipalities. All we have left is 2 areas, and this is one of them. We hunt, we fish, we trap. This is our critical infrastructure.
So what you're telling us is that you will not allow us access onto the territory. We understand that. We thank you for your time here today. We
Put
brought
that
you
on
an
government
offering. We left some water, some tobacco.
No thanks. We've got clean water right there. That's what we drink, and that's pollution, the plastic that adds to the landfill.
The 5th meeting of the 18th session of the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues is called to order.
I am Frida Hewson of the Unist'ot'en Wet'suwet'en people of Canada. I am here today to express concerns for human rights violations happening to my people. This year, a pipeline company forced a court injunction on us, and if we stop them from entering our territory because they don't have consent, we face arrests. We have not been able to hunt or gather our traditional foods. The company has security and police force for keeping us from exercising our Indigenous rights. Elders, women, and healing center clients have been threatened with arrest for accessing our own territory. The pipeline company is violating Wet'suwet'en law, trespassing on our territory and starting to destroy the land. They have already destroyed the heritage site. After bulldozing part of the forest, we searched through the piles of dirt for evidence of my people. We found artifacts. The archaeology branch of the government and police assistants came in and took the artifacts and then released news bulletins claiming the artifacts were not from their original place. They are trying to erase us from our own land. All these acts that continue are the acts of genocide. I am here today to make the UN aware of a continuous genocide happening in Canada and to demand that our Indigenous rights and laws are respected.
We're wondering why our own people weren't standing up beside us, and the more and more we realize that a lot of my family, the ones that are standing up, all the females in my family, we've done a lot of healings in our lives. We've gone through the same trauma as everybody else on our reservations. So that's the reason why we're able to stand up and stand up against what we know is wrong. So that's why we identified that other people aren't able to stand up because they're still stuck in their trauma and oppression and everything that comes with being oppressed and living in a system that discriminates against you. So when my niece started going to school for clinical psychology, her long-term vision was to see a healing center on the land so that we can start healing our people. It took us 4 years to build the 3 phases of our healing center, which has a commercial kitchen, dining hall was built in the first phase, and then a rec room upstairs and food storage. And then the second phase included a boardroom, laundry room, an office and 2 counseling spaces, and the 3rd floor was a art room slash workshop room. So that was the 2nd phase that was put in, and then the 3rd phase was sleeping quarters. So this is the 4th year of work camp, and it's pretty much done with just small minor things. And then now the long-term goal is to add more cabins, because for the healing center, we require a whole territory, all of Talbot's-Qua, to make this program successful. This is a new cabin being constructed by one of another significant site for our people. And this is the 2nd one we're building to reoccupy another part of the territory. Beautiful scenery, tons and tons of medicine in this area. My dad always told me that the only way we're not going to lose all our traditional territories, we have to reoccupy them. It's pretty much what settler people have done. They occupied our territories, and now they call those municipalities and act like they own it, even though it's still Wet'suwet'en lands. But he said we needed to reoccupy and behave like we own it, because we do own it. We're behaving like we own these lands, and we don't need nobody's permission to put up our cabins, and we don't need nobody's permission to be here. We only go by our own Wet'suwet'en laws.
What do you think is going to happen in the future in this land?
The future I see is more and more of our people living in cabins all over this territory, more of our people getting thoroughly immersed in their culture, becoming independent and harvesting their own food, their own medicine, so they can take care of themselves and their families. More and more other clans doing the same of what we're doing on their territories. The future I see is there will be no pipelines through here. The future I see, there will be no man camp here.
What are you afraid of?
That's a trick question, because I don't fear anything.
Skilly. So there is the what we call Invasion. That was a documentary that came out in 2019, and so I hope that you enjoyed that. Now, so right now, what you've heard so far really been focused on a lot of the indigenous territories. So the next thing I want to show you is actually going to be more broader, and it's going to talk about water issues, not just in indigenous territories, but all over the place. And so before I get to that, again, I'll give you a quick break here so you can grab a drink or snack if you haven't done so far. In the meantime, I'm going to play a video or a recording of Elder Mary Lou Smoke. Many of you who are regulars will know Dan and Mary Lou Smoke are local elders. They're actually a mixed marriage. So Dan, or Oceanus, is part of the Six Nations of Grand River, and Mary Lou Smoke is actually, let me just put this here, because they've actually created a database as well, a virtual database through the University of Western well, what used to be called the University of Western Ontario, now is called Western University. But they now have a database there that you can search because Dan and Mary Lou have been doing education and awareness for over 30 years now. They created the longest running cultural radio show on a educational campus here at Western. And again, for over 30 years, they've been running this program called Smoke Signals Original People's Radio Programming. So they also do a lot of ceremony for organizations and for the communities in and around southwestern Ontario, and they've actually gone on to do things outside of Ontario. And Mary Lou Smoke is actually in the midst of recording an album right now, so she's going to have some music soon, and so I'm hoping to have her back on to kind of share some updates on how that is going. But anyway, the song that I'm going to share next is called The Water Song. It's a song that was recorded in my backyard, actually. But it was recorded for a domestic violence conference that was taking place here at Western. And so we want to share that, give you a chance to grab a drink and a snack before we go to the next documentary. So let me again get my mug off the screen here. And this is Mary Lou Smoke here on Everything Indigenous.
We're going to sing a song. This song is called the Water Song, and we would like to teach you this song because water is very important. It's very important that we take care. We're going to sing a song. This song is called the Water Song. And we would like to teach you this song because water is very important. It's very important that we take care of the water for the next 7 generations to come. So the children will have water and our grandchildren will have water. So all the people before us did this. They taught the children the songs and the teachings, and so that's why we're here to help teach you. So this song is really simple to learn, but if you can't remember it, you can go to YouTube and key in my name, Mary Lou Smoke, and I'm singing a couple verses of it on YouTube. So this is called the Water Song. So your assignment is that you have to teach this song to one person younger than you and talk to them about the importance of the water. Wichita, do ya, do ya, do ya. Wichita, do ya, do ya, hey. Wichita, do ya, do ya, do ya. Wichita, do ya, do ya, hey. Hey ya, Tanea, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, Tanea, hey ya, hey. Hey ya, Tanea, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, Tanea, hey ya, hey. Now that was pretty simple, right? So let's try the second verse. Wichita, do ya, do ya, do ya. Wichita, do ya, do ya, hey. Wichita, do ya, do ya, do ya. Wichita, do ya, do ya, hey. Hey ya, Tanea, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, Tanea, hey ya, hey. Hey ya, Tanea, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, Tanea, hey ya, hey. Wichita, do ya, do ya, do ya. Wichita, do ya, do ya, hey. Wichita, do ya, do ya, do ya. Wichita, do ya, do ya, hey. Hey ya, Tanea, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, Tanea, hey ya, hey. Hey ya, Tanea, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, Tanea, hey ya, hey. Now we're going to sing the last verse like our life depends upon water. Wichita, do ya, do ya, do ya. Wichita, do ya, do ya, hey. Wichita, do ya, do ya, do ya. Wichita, do ya, do ya, hey. Hey ya, Tenaya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, Tenaya, hey ya, hey. Hey ya, Tenaya, hey ya, hey ya. Hey ya, Tenaya, hey ya, hey. Whoa, Matakwasson. All right. All my relations.
All right.
Imagine if our water were to run out.
This is the realization of what happens to a community that runs out of water. There's no way to survive. Is this our future?
Imagine our wells drying up.
I'm afraid that we may eventually run out of water here.
And what if the fight for water turns into war?
Some parts of the world are going to become unlivable because of rising heat.
Here, the water crisis is a tale of never-ending misery.
Water is disappearing everywhere.
That suggests a huge global migration.
Societies need water to survive. International conflicts will become inevitable.
From a global perspective, humankind's approach to water is potentially lethal.
Once politics is dictated by the fight for water, then God help us.
We're used to having plenty of water. But that's changing thanks to the climate crisis. With water scarcity becoming an increasingly important issue, this series asks, what happens if we have no more water? Avila Beach is a picturesque resort town in Southern California, with an old wooden pier stretching far out into the local bay. But appearances can be deceptive. As we're told by Pete Kelly from the local community services, this Pacific Coast paradise is facing disaster.
It's a beautiful spot for sure, but it's also very dry now compared to what it usually is. I mean, after a wonderful rainy spring, it's so green around here you wouldn't believe it. It looks like Ireland, but not this year. It's semi-desert.
After years of drought, the land just behind the coast around Avila Beach is now eerily barren.
We will be out of water, as will most places in California. And it's going to get worse. I would just say pray for rain.
300 kilometers up the coast in comparatively water-rich Northern California lies the town of Mendocino.
I mean, I grew up here. This is home. I actually was a firefighter and worked in EMS for about 15 years. So I'm not new to emergencies. I'm not new to protecting the community. But I am relatively new to water and wastewater management. And starting this career in the middle of one of the worst droughts in the last 100 years has presented quite a few challenges.
Mendocino's location, perched on the cliffs overlooking the ocean, has made it a popular tourist destination. But these days, fresh water has to be trucked in. The ongoing drought is threatening to sink its key industry.
We've been dependent on trucked water since at least January. And the real problem happened July 18th when Fort Bragg shut off the tap, because every month we're more and more dependent on the trucked water. Everyone declared an emergency, but all of a sudden there was no more water available. That's when panic set in.
An entire county now dependent on water brought in by trucks and subject to a drought state of emergency declared by the state governor in 2021. A nightmare for locals.
When shop owners started calling me and restaurants saying, we have to lock our bathrooms to the public because we don't have enough water, this is a health and safety crisis. It's a human emergency. You know, you can't have people defecating on the street.
All over town, restaurant and cafe owners have had to set up portable toilets.
Water makes the world go round, and in a first world country, the fact that we don't have, continual access to it is difficult.
And every day brings fresh uncertainty.
We don't know. We go day by day. We have the risk to sometimes we can open the door because we don't have the water to run our business.
Massimo Milani is originally from Italy. Like nearly all restaurant owners, his business cannot function without water. In his case, it's provided by the authorities, but it's rationed.
The county gave us water, so this was the water we use for the customer. And so we give it to each customer 1 little barrel. And obviously, if they ask for more water, we give more water.
Water never used to be in short supply here. So what is it like now, being left high and dry?
It's an embarrassment. It's scary, and it makes you really reevaluate your life, where you live, and it makes you think about things differently. It's one thing not to have Wi-Fi everywhere you go. It's a whole nother thing if you've got no water to drink.
And 10,000 kilometers east of California, in Germany, water shortages have become a problem as well.
2020 war das zweitwärmste Jahr in Deutschland.
Wochenlang nichts als Sonne, hohe Temperaturen und kein Regen.
Erneut rekordverdächtige Temperaturen.
In some parts of Germany, searing temperatures have repeatedly strained supplies of drinking water, as here in the town of Lauenau.
This is the local water authority. Due to high levels of consumption, the local water supply levels remain critical. The supply of drinking water could occasionally be interrupted. The fire department will soon be distributing a final supply of service water in your area. We have seen critical situations in the dry summers of the last few years, but nothing like this year.
In extreme situations like this, the local fire department provides people with water until the local supply can be restored. But why didn't those responsible anticipate the shortfall? An expert explains how a resource once taken for granted became a scarce commodity without anyone really noticing.
Wasser ist absolut ein gefährdetes Gut, und zwar in unterschiedlichster Art und Weise.
Water is very much a vulnerable resource in various ways. But in Germany, the days when we had abundant water supplies are gone too. And in some parts of northern Bavaria, there is a dire shortage of water.
Richtige Wasserarmutsgebiete sind.
Here in Upper Franconia, one of the areas hardest hit by water scarcity in Germany, regional water authorities monitor the groundwater level. Klaus Atzet is joined by Simone Preis from the Nuremberg Water Authority to conduct checks at a critical measuring site. Readings taken at key points like this will, they hope, reveal any hidden developments underground. As the probe is lowered into the ground, a light indicates when it hits groundwater. Simone Preis records the latest data.
Wieder 4 Zentimeter weniger als letzte Woche.
4 centimeters lower than last week and 1.5 meters lower than last year. We've been measuring this site since 2012. Since then, the groundwater level has dropped by 13 meters.
Wir beobachten natürlich auch an anderen Messstellen.
We also monitor other measuring sites in Bavaria. And we've seen that groundwater levels are dropping and are taking longer to be replenished, if they're recovering at all.
But what if groundwater levels continue to sink at this rate?
Wir können natürlich nicht abschätzen.
There's no way we can make any medium or long-term predictions. If these lengthy dry periods persist, the groundwater level will continue to drop. As a large proportion of the drinking water in Bavaria comes from groundwater, then obviously there'll be less water available.
Und damit steht natürlich auch weniger zur Verfügung.
And one result of the drop in groundwater levels is already visible at this well. It's supplied 200 households with drinking water for over a century.
This is the well house.
Extending and renovating the well would be costly. Michael Belau from the Regional Environmental Agency monitors the facility.
In 2020, we recorded record lows for groundwater levels. and you notice from the discharge that there's less water.
And with those levels no longer sufficient, the well is set to be closed. While the population here in Teuchnitz is growing, the municipal wells and springs are yielding a dwindling supply of water. Christian Müller, head of the local utilities maintenance department, accompanies Klaus Azet and Michael Belau to the community's last remaining well.
Climate change has had a particularly bad impact in the dry years, 2013, 2015, 2018, 2019 and 2020.
A situation that nobody here had expected to escalate as dramatically as it has.
I can't remember us ever having had summers as dry as the ones we've had over the last 5 or 10 years. And nobody here can remember a summer without any rain at all.
And with the last well now also being shut down, Teuchnitz will need to look elsewhere for its water.
Climate change means our wells no longer yield what we need. So we're now entirely dependent on a remote water supply.
You've noticed a huge change in recent years, right?
Yes, it's been brutal. I'm scared that one day the water here will run out.
That a community like Teuchnitz no longer has its own water supply because its wells have dried up shows how dramatic the situation has become and how advanced climate change is now, and how this is something we will have to adapt to in the future.
1/3 of Germany's drinking water is already supplied by long-distance pipelines. From the Mauthaus Dam, for instance, seen here under construction in the 1970s. The construction of dams causes massive damage to nature, which is why they were disapproved of for so long. But now they are the backbone of water supply in the likes of southern Germany. Without a long-distance water supply, big cities like Nuremberg or Würzburg could not survive.
If it weren't for the dam, there's no way the water supply in this region could be guaranteed. A lot of communities and water companies depend on Mauthaus and on a long-distance supply, because their own water sources can't always meet the needs of people and industry.
The water from the dam is fed via pipelines to the Regional Water Association. At the control center, Director Markus Rau shows us the full extent of the long-distance water network in Bavaria. Global warming, he explains, also presents a growing challenge to companies like his.
We had this rapid sequence of peak values in 2018, 2019, and 2020, peak temperatures and low precipitation, and it did surprise us.
From here, the company pumps water as far as 140 kilometers. Without a long-distance supply, large parts of Bavaria would already be dry.
There really are major water companies in Germany that, in terms of volume, are already at their limit. And they say this quite openly, not in Bavaria, but in neighboring Baden-Württemberg, for example. It's quite clear that at the moment, no more major lines can be built.
Remote water supplies give those affected a sense of security. But what if surface water becomes scarce too? Professor Martin Grambo is a member of Germany's Joint Federal and Regional Working Group on Water Issues. He's spent years studying the availability of the resource in the country.
Was damals, wir reden jetzt von einem Zeitraum von vor 30 Jahren.
30 years ago, no one believed that today, Northern Europe could be facing a water shortage.
Sowas wie einen Wassermangel haben könnten.
If anything, just an occasional drought. But no one could have envisaged a scenario that would require such strong attention.
Befassen müssen. Das hat, glaube ich, niemand geahnt.
A painful admission. But what does the future hold for us?
We've now reached a point where we're starting to feel the impact of climate change and many other issues. People are extremely worried that there's worse to come.
In some parts of Canada, the speed at which water scarcity is increasing has been completely underestimated. Jay Familietti is a hydrologist and the executive director of the Global Institute for Water Security at the University of Saskatchewan. He's also been a key figure in a joint research mission launched by NASA, the US Space Agency, and DLR, its German counterpart.
What we see here is an animation of how the GRACE mission works. There are two little satellites, each one is about a meter tall, and they're separated by about 200 kilometers. They really work like a scale in the sky in that they respond to the mass of water on the ground. When a region is losing water, it exerts slightly less of a gravitational tug on the satellites, and they float a little bit higher in their orbits. So by keeping track of the ups and downs of these satellites, we can map out the regions around the world that are gaining and losing water mass, and we've been doing this for 20 years now.
What might sound like science fiction is reality. The scientists have been recording massive water losses worldwide. They can forecast droughts and identify which regions are drying out even before the effects are at all tangible. The GRACE mission shows, for instance, that the US West Coast is drying up at an alarming and growing pace. Phoenix, Arizona, a city built in the desert. But with its abundance of green lawns, artificial lakes, and fountains, there's no indication that water might be scarce here. Phoenix is the fastest growing city in America and home to a booming high-tech sector. And that makes it a particularly big consumer of water. Phoenix's water comes from 450 kilometers away, through a long-distance pipeline system that runs right through the desert from Lake Powell, one of the two biggest reservoirs in the US. In total, some 40 million people depend on this water. But the lake, which is filled by the Colorado River, is at its lowest ever level. A development predicted by Jay Familietti with the help of satellite data.
So I was standing at the bottom of the new boat ramp. You can see that it no longer reaches. It just goes up to where these orange barriers are. So boats can't be put in the water over here. And if you take a look on Google Maps and at my position right now, you'll see that just a few years ago, I would be underwater right now. So this is where we're at.
Once upon a time, Lake Powell was full to the brim as far as the eye could see. Originally, the reservoir was to protect the entire West Coast from the threat of water scarcity. That was the plan, at least.
We have this interest by the federal government in expanding and forming states in the western part of the territories. And so they commissioned John Wesley Powell to go out and explore the river. And he comes back with a recommendation that, this is really a non-starter. It's really, really dry. Of course, you could go big and really try something crazy and try to engineer the river and build giant reservoirs, but I really don't recommend that. I don't think that is sustainable in the long run. And what does the government do? Decides go for the big reservoirs, and ironically, they named the reservoir after Powell himself, and that's what we know as Lake Powell today.
What for decades was seen as a visionary idea for the settlement and future of America's western states has become their Achilles heel.
It gives me great concern, and I think it gives a lot of people great concern when they see just how far the level has dropped. Last time I was here, in about this same spot, was 30, 31, 32 years ago, and this wasn't an issue. We weren't thinking about this back then. We were just starting to think about climate change. There was no bathtub ring visible. So this is the future. This is the future for the Western United States.
Will the water disappear completely? Is it only a matter of time? People here face a future with many unknown factors, and also an immense challenge. From Lake Powell, the once mighty Colorado River flows through the Grand Canyon to the next desert metropolis, Las Vegas. America's Sin City is famed for its extravagant aquatic shows. Visitors are treated to spectacular fountains, artificial lakes, and even a Venetian-style hotel complete with singing gondoliers in the middle of the Mojave Desert. Las Vegas draws the water it needs from Lake Mead. Here, too, the water level is at its lowest point in the history of the reservoir, the biggest in America. This road was built as an extension to the boat ramp down to Lake Mead. Jay Famiglietti has come here to meet scientist Kristen Averett, the state of Nevada's first climate policy coordinator.
Hey, Kristen. Great to
Hi.
see you.
Oh, goodness. Well, here we are.
Pretty amazing.
I know.
Pretty unbelievable.
It actually really is. It's really sad. So, I mean, it's pretty apparent. You can see where the water used to be up there, where you have that pretty stunning bathtub ring, and you see that all around the lake. And we would have been, hundreds plus feet underwater right now if the lake was actually full, if we were where we're at. Yep. I think it's also stunning to think about the fact that, this is just going to keep going down.
I know.
The odds of Lake Mead being full again are pretty much slim to none. I mean, this really is just climate change right in your face. And it's pretty profound to look at, to come out and see.
Yeah.
But, that's the new reality.
I know. And that's pretty scary.
It is.
Right, when you think about that.
So how could it come to this?
It is a desert landscape. You know you live in the desert. The thing is, everybody in the western U.S. needs to act like they live in the desert.
I know.
And they don't.
We see it all over the place. We're in Phoenix, and you know what it's like there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, lots of green grass and golf courses, and the sprinklers shooting great arcs into the air at midday.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
I mean, it's all crazy stuff. Yeah, I mean,
It's true.
the only way we're going to sustain these desert cities is with really, really careful conservation and probably some new thinking about water management.
A daunting challenge in terms of scale and complexity, and the odds.
Everything's just getting drier and drier, and we need more and more water. It increases water demand. And then the other problem is the supply. I mean, if climate change and fixing it was easy, we would have done it already. It's crazy. We are in a decades-long drought, a mega drought here in the Southwest. 19, 20 years of drought is what we've been experiencing. And drought, I always think about that as being a temporary sort of situation. Really, this isn't just drought, this is aridification. This is a permanent state moving forward for this part of the world.
To keep its tourism industry buoyant, Las Vegas still gives the impression of being a city with plenty of water. Looks can be deceiving.
We're really in a situation where we really need to make sure that everybody is conserving every drop of water possible.
And for the residents of Las Vegas, years or decades of drought will force them to change their lifestyles.
20 years ago in southern Nevada, we had a lot of grass. Everybody had grass in their front yards, grass in their backyard. So our community came together and we implemented a lot of conservation programs. And one of those programs was an incentive program where we pay people to take out grass and replace it with drip irrigated landscaping. And what that has done is it has reduced our community's consumption of the Colorado River by 23% since 2002. Yet our community has grown by nearly 800,000 people during that same time. So we're serving more people with less water today, and we still have more conservation gains to make.
To realize those gains, city authorities are now resorting to more aggressive solutions, such as an around-the-clock water patrol. Special investigators ensure compliance with the strict water use regulations.
I work for the water waste enforcement team for the Las Vegas Valley Water District. So what my job is to basically drive around the city of Las Vegas and basically find water waste violations. Those can range from anything to watering on an unassigned day, any kind of malfunctions.
When his team comes across a violation, like in this case, they issue a fine.
So how it works is there's different kinds of violations that can occur. So this was a day-of-week violation. So this is when a property is watering on a non-assigned day. The city of Las Vegas is divided into 6 separate groups.
Right.
As of now, A, C, and E waters Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. B, D, and F waters Tuesday, Thursdays, and Saturdays.
Ornamental lawns won't be banned until 2023, but most gardens and front yards have already been turned into gravel beds.
I feel like what I do has a purpose, and I love living in Las Vegas. I love my community, and I feel like what I do helps all of us that live here. So yeah, I really do enjoy doing my job.
Yeah, it sounds like it must be very rewarding. It's really, really good.
But regional approaches like the Water Patrol teams in Las Vegas are not really a solution to the problem. They're more a drop in the ocean.
It is crazy from a resource availability perspective that we have these mega cities in the desert. I don't know. I think we probably prided ourselves on human ingenuity. Yes, we can do it. We can harness the water from the Colorado River. So a lot of the growth happened with no knowledge of climate change and imperfect knowledge about water availability. So there are really, really tough times ahead for our desert cities. And let's face it, water is the lifeblood of these cities. And so I'm really concerned actually about their existence.
And while water levels in the major reservoirs serving the west of the country have dropped alarmingly in recent years, there's another invisible development also emerging.
What we don't see is what's happening underneath the ground. And that's the disappearance of groundwater. The groundwater is disappearing at 7 times the rate at which this water in Lake Powell is disappearing.
So what does the data from NASA's satellites tell us about the surface and groundwater situation in California?
This is a hugely agricultural region, produces food for the world. It's home to 40 million people. And look over here. This is the Silicon Valley. This is the world's home of technological innovation. Technology is incredibly water intensive, and this region is running out of water.
San Francisco, one of the world's major financial centers and the gateway to Silicon Valley. Valley Water is the Silicon Valley's most important water company. Today, it's inaugurating a new purification facility.
And this purification center would allow for Valley Water to provide at least 10 million gallons per day.
A high-tech answer to aridification. But will it be enough to quench the region's thirst? The water provider is placing its faith in innovation.
My name's Gary Kremen. I'm an elected board member at Valley Water, and I'm on the Valley Water board because I wanted to do some public service after a career in technology. A lot of people know me because I invented online dating. I started Match.com. Well, I actually want to mix online dating and water conservation to help people save water by finding the closest person to take a shower with.
The board member gets an on-the-ground update from his colleague Chris Hakes on the situation at Anderson Reservoir, the biggest reservoir in the Silicon Valley.
This community in general is actually all serviced through groundwater recharge by the Anderson Reservoir. It's got about a 90,000 acre-foot capacity, which is enough to serve about 900,000, a million residents of Santa Clara County for about a year. Right now, it's down at 3,000 acre-feet. It's extremely low, and that is a critical juncture in our water supply. We are looking at extreme drought right now.
The situation then is more critical than ever.
So we are in a really interesting situation here. We have some of the largest companies in the world, like Google and Apple, all headquartered here. We have a pretty dense population of 2 million people, and what unifies them and what they all need is water. But unfortunately, we have to import our water from hundreds of miles away because we used all our local water already. We've always had to import water, okay? The problem we're having is there's no water to import anymore. The state of California and the federal government, where we would get it from, they're giving us zero. So there is a real possibility all we will get is health and safety water, which is a minimum amount of water for drinking and showering, and that's it.
But what if the water really does run out, and there's no longer enough for the people living and working here?
There's a quote about whiskey's for drinking, but water's for fighting over. I think we're gonna have some epic fighting here, kind of an internal civil war over water. I don't want to say it's threatening because I don't want people to panic, but I would be panicked.
Abram Lustgarten is an acclaimed researcher and writer about the impact of changing climate zones on people around the world.
I mean, in terms of climate change, I think we're past the wake-up call. I hate to say it. Not to say that people have awoken to what those risks are. That's still happening.
The crisis spots of the future, he believes, will be caused by the changing climatic conditions.
For the past 6,000 years, humans on planet Earth have lived in a relatively narrow band of environmental conditions. Climate change is changing where those bands exist. It's pushing them northward and southward, but there's more land in the north. And so we can expect as a result that human populations over some period of time will move with those bands, just as they always have.
Kabul, capital of Afghanistan, a country with a long history of battling aridity. And in recent years, the situation has become more severe with yet another protracted drought. Water now only flows from faucets in the wealthier parts of town, a precious luxury for a precious few. And a luxury made possible by water pumps in one of the city's suburbs, built with the help of technology and funding from Germany.
Water is a major issue. Many wells and springs have lower water levels. They used to provide between 20 and 30,000 cubic meters. Today, they yield between 14 and 16,000, 20,000 at the very most. At any rate, the drought has meant our production decreased by 50%.
Ensuring water flows through those taps in downtown Kabul means drawing groundwater from a poor district. The locals themselves have literally been left high and dry.
This is a very dry region, and when there's no water, we give our children canisters to bring up water from lower down, up to 3 canisters per child. At the moment, there's no water at all. Areas that are lower down have wells, but now they've dried up as well.
On good days, children are sent into town to fetch water. On bad days, there's no water at all.
The problem in this region is that people have no access to clean water. That's the reason why last week, for example, 60% of the population were suffering from diarrhea-related illnesses.
Ahmed Khan has been waiting for days for water to become available again.
We have a lot of problems to cope with, but the shortage of drinking water is particularly bad. We only get water from the tap every 12 or 13 days, and even then, for no more than an hour or an hour and a half. Often there's none at all. Then I have to come down here to fetch some myself. There's simply not enough water for this region.
How many people will fight for their water, and how many will simply move on?
People are migrating already now as a result of climate change. They're migrating in the United States, they're migrating out of North Africa, they're migrating in Europe. We see that change. By 2070, as many as 3 billion people could find themselves living outside of this band of ideal environment. That suggests a huge global migration, likely to move mostly north, of very, very large numbers of people.
When water supplies are insufficient, people move to where the water is, all over the world. And neither border fences nor the open seas can hold back people who are desperately in need. Peter Glick from the California-based Pacific Institute has been studying the historical background to conflicts and wars resulting from water scarcity.
There's a long history of conflicts over water resources. One of the things that we do at the Pacific Institute is we maintain something called the Water Conflict Chronology. It's a database of conflicts over water, violence over water, going back over 4,000 years to ancient Mesopotamia. But it's also true that in recent years, the number and types of conflicts over water have grown enormously.
In recent memory, water scarcity was also among the factors that triggered the conflict in Syria, where a devastating drought led to rising prices for cereals. The result? War and widespread destruction. And there had been experts warning of precisely such conflicts, like Jay Famiglietti.
We did a lot of work in the United States at the federal level trying to raise awareness about what we saw. Before we published a paper on this region in 2013. We started messaging on it in about 2009, before the Arab Spring, before the Syrian unrest. We did not get a lot of attention.
Scientists from the Grace mission also raised the alarm back in 2009. They told Congress, gave a presentation in the White House, and sent their data to defense officials in the Pentagon. And how were their warnings received?
It's incredibly frustrating. As a scientist who, first of all, is doing this work, so it's tough to sleep at night when you look at this kind of work and you understand what it means and what the future holds. And it's tough for someone like me who goes the extra mile to try to do the communication. And then it becomes exceptionally frustrating when you have an opportunity to have an audience in a place like the Pentagon or these high-level congressional committees, but to essentially be dismissed or ignored.
But the Institute is still fighting. And for this documentary, Jay Famiglietti looked at the NASA mission's data for Germany with surprising results.
We took a look at some of our most recent data, and we looked at a bit higher resolution over Germany. And what we see is that there is quite a strong signal for the disappearance of water. This has been going on for 2 decades now, from 2002 up until the present. This is quite a concern to see all this red. In fact, we can take this map and average it up and do some analysis on it and actually compute the overall trend for how much water Germany is actually losing. Water disappearing at a rate of 2.4 cubic kilometers per year. That means in 20 years that Germany has lost the volume of the Bodensee.
The findings of the NASA mission had not yet been made public in Germany. Here, the Bavarian environment minister and a professor from the Federal and State Working Group on Water were seeing the data for the first time.
Sadly, all this currently unpublished data supports the picture that, ultimately, we have a systemic deficit.
Letztendlich ein systemisches Defizit haben.
What's particularly troublesome is that for a very long time, everything seems fine. But when changes finally become tangible, it's already far too late. And that's why we get so worried when graphs like these confirm what our terrestrial measurements indicate. But a lot of people fail to understand and say, the water's still flowing. I then tell them that I can see into the future and that unless we take action at some point, water will stop flowing, but then it will be too late.
It's important for everyone to understand that the water situation is of prime importance. Every state government needs to emphasize the challenge of water on its agenda. If I look at the first 5 issues, water has to be among the first 5. Once politics is dictated by the fight for water, then God help us.
Jay Familietti's journey through the western U.S. is coming to an end. His final stop, the Salton Sea. California's largest freshwater lake has been drying up for decades. This former vacation paradise has become a vivid warning of what water scarcity could soon mean for us.
When I walk around this place, it really makes me sad to see the degradation, the real post-apocalyptic feel, the real realization of what happens to a community that runs out of water. There's no way to survive. Is this our future? I think we really need to stand up and take notice. This could happen anywhere. Water is essential for life. If we don't have it, this could be our future. I think this is must-see viewing for our elected officials, for our decision makers. They need to know that in many parts of the world, this is the trajectory that we're on.
Well, it's kind of a reality check when you consider what we have to, what we're facing, and this is something that it's kind of ironic that people like David Suzuki have been talking about climate change since the '60s, and we've been kind of blinding ourselves to it and allowing corporate interests to dictate how we handle things. And as a result, we're kind of getting into the situation we're in today, where everything is very dire as far as what our environment is looking like. So I have one more thing I'm going to share with you, and people who have been here for a while may have seen this one already, but because we started out the stream with a talk by Layla Statz. Layla Statz, again, is a Mohawk musician, activist, educator, speaker, who has been, involved in so many rallies, from 1492 Landback Lane to the Wet'suwet'en territory, that that her name is becoming very well known. She's a filmmaker as well, and she has done her most recent film documentary is called Boil Alert, and I showed a trailer for that earlier. I'm gonna post a VOD up after this stream, so you can, if you missed anything that you want to see, then check the VOD out. And you'll be able to see her talk and the trailers for End of the Line, Women of Standing Rock, which is a documentary on the rallying for people to come support Standing Rock in South Dakota. The trailer for Boil Alert, which is the new one from Layla Stats, who's gone on to, it's currently running through the film festivals right now, and in her talk, and then of course the stuff we shared after that. But this is her first documentary, and so this one essentially is going to talk about, excuse me, her family's history with residential schools and how they healed that intergenerational trauma through reconnecting with water. So water really is the basis for a lot of what we do and our teachings and things like that. So before I get to that, I'm going to play another version of The Peaceful Warrior, just to give you a chance to, again, grab a snack, grab a drink. The documentary is only about 25 minutes long, so it's not really, crazy long, but I'll give you a chance anyway to grab a snack and run to the washroom, whatever you need to do. And I'll share a rendition of The Peaceful Warrior. This one I'm going to share is actually, it was done by Evelyn from Justin and Evelyn's channel, and they've just recently got married. They've done some honeymoon stuff and some other IRL stuff that has taken them from Twitch for a little while, but they're going to be coming back to Twitch mid-January, so keep an eye out for that, because they're such a sweet couple, and their laughter and positivity is infectious, so they're definitely worth a follow and check them out. So I'm going to go ahead and get my mug up to screen again here while we watch Evelyn do The Peaceful Warrior. She did not practice or rehearse it. This was kind of like on the fly, her taking the lyrics and then just going with it. So, and there's a number of streamers who've done that. And I think I really applaud those who can really just on the spot make something up and go with it. And so this is kind of what she's done here. And so let me get this going, and then we'll go right into what is called Blood in Water, a reclamation story. And that will be the Layla Stats' first documentary that she did, just telling the story of her family's surviving residential schools, the intergenerational trauma, and how they reconnected to the water to heal from that and to put themselves on a path of strength and resilience and the ability to kind of move forward in the fights that we're seeing today in relation to climate change and water protection and land protection. So let's go here with Justin and Evelyn.
Okay, now let's go back to C. Let's go back to C.
I think I have it. My name is Evelyn and I led war for peace. All senseless attacks I see must cease. So what am I doing here, and what do I really want to say is that this world has got to change its way. See, I'm gonna fight for the red, white, yellow, and black. I'm gonna fight for the ones who want my back. I'm talking about the creatures from the water to the sky. I feel like I want to slow it down, though. Oh no, I lost it. Is it Commander? Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah, let's not go too fast in the song. This is fun. I'm talking about all the creatures from the water to the sky. I'm talking about all the issues from the truth to the lie. And I'm gonna make my stand with a paper and a pen. You wanna argue that? Go back to bed again. 'Cause you're never gonna win against what I stand for. So sit down and shut up and listen as I give my grand tour. I'm gonna target the corruption in our government. I'm gonna target the poison in our environment. I'm gonna target the injustice to the people. I'm gonna hit every target or I won't keep still. I'm gonna battle the battle of all the battles. I'll shake it up the cage until it rattles. 'Cause you're never gonna get rid of me. Not until the problems of the world are cut at the knee. Know what I'm saying? Let me kick it one more time. So crystal clear is the message in my rhyme. In my rhyme. My name is Evelyn. I'm at war for peace. All senseless attacks I see must cease. I'm gonna fight for the red, white, yellow, and black. I'm gonna fight for the ones who won't fight back. So let's keep passing around our information so we can help improve this planet through education. And somebody's gotta make the people aware. It's me. Somebody's gotta make everybody care. So pass on my message if you dare. Whether mine or yours, we all get to share. Because there's more power in one man's voice than all the weapons of military choice. And my name's Evelyn. I'm at war for peace. My name is Evelyn, and I am at war for peace. That was fun. That was the best I could do, making it up on the spot. Solid B. It's a great poem. It is a great poem.
It is, yeah.
It's got it has a great message. It's got just the right amount of sass. It's like, shut up, sit down. I'm like, ooh, ooh. Oh, you like it? Well, maybe we'll work on it and actually produce it into a song that happens more than once.
Ahodan Gariwadegwa, the words before all else. I was told by people in the filmmaking industry that I shouldn't start the documentary with the Thanksgiving address. It can take up to 20 minutes to thank all elements of creation. And it's all in Mohawk, so you can't understand any of it. Most people don't speak Mohawk. I was told you'll lose them. They won't watch it. And for me, that was exactly why we had to start this film with the Ahodan Gariwadegwa. I remember the first time I heard the Thanksgiving address, I had no idea what they were saying. I was at a conference sitting there, an elder walked to the front of the room and started speaking. And even though I couldn't understand it, I knew it was significant. I knew it was important. I felt it in my bones, in my blood. But when I looked around, I saw people on their phones, checking out, getting bored and impatient. And it became very clear to me that this is part of the problem in our society. We're in this microwave society where we want everything now. We want it so bad that we can't even take the time to acknowledge the gratitude and the thankfulness for the things that we have that keep us alive. So as you listen to the Ahoda Gariwadegwa, I really want you to, even though you don't understand what they're saying, I really want you to connect with the feeling of gratitude and giving that thanks for all of these things and listening with a good mind.
Daye tina warado ne ungwai sua. Ito gari na yo tuhage ne ngwa niguna. Daye tina warado na eti nistaha johwanjade. Ito gari na yo tuhage ne ngwa niguna. Daye tina warado ne gahniga sua. Ito gari na yo tuhage ne ngwa niguna. Daye tina warado ne gunjo sua. Da eto na yotoge na ngwa nigura. Da etina wanado na yotunduni. Da eto na yotoge na ngwa nigura. Da etina warado na ono kwa suma. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa nigura. Da etina warado na asa nigunda de kohogua. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa nigura. Da etina warado ne wahyaniota. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da etina warado ne gundirio. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da etina warado ne garunda sua. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da etina warado ne zita ogua. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da etina warado na gayedi ni gawarage. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da etina warado na eti sotogo radiweras. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da tsidawa no warado na tsidawa zia anje kene garakwa. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da etina warado na eti sota asta neka garakwa. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da etina warado na yodzi stoh kwaronyo. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da etina warado na dion kiadadum. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da tsidawa no warado na sungwaya dizu. Da eto gari na yotoge na ngwa niguna. Da eto.
Sego Skanagoa. Layla Black Youngyats, Anuwari, Niwagi Daroden, Ganyakehaga, Niwagon Wandroden, Oswego Nidawageno. Hello, my name is Layla Black. I'm Mohawk Turtle Clan from Six Nations. Mohawk Turtle Clan. But I never really knew what that meant. My Riga'on and Kega'on are generational survivors of the residential school. It was only recently when we made this decision to reclaim our Haudenosaunee identity, our language, our culture, that we started to become aware of just how impacted we had been from this ongoing trauma of residential schools. And as we begin to understand what we didn't know, it also became apparent that some things we didn't need to learn. We didn't have to be taught these things because they were in our blood all along. And one of those lessons was our connection to the water. It's literally in our blood. And one of the first things that I learned along this journey was the importance of the Thanksgiving address, the Ahodan Gariwadegwa, the words before all else. No ceremony, no gathering, nothing of significance would begin without these words. Uniting our minds, all as one, to give thanks. And the waters are just one of the elements recognized in this address. Onega Sho'a, the waters. We give thanks to the waters of the world for quenching our thirst and providing us strength. Water is life. We know its power in many forms. Waterfalls, rain, mist, streams, rivers, and oceans. Water connects us. Without it, we die. With one mind, we give thanks to the spirit of the water. Now, our minds are one. As I share my Papa's story with you, I want you to think about your own connection to water. Feel it flow within you. Feel it pulse in your veins, in your blood. So let's go back to where my relationship with water first started. Gord Staats, the son of Ernest and Susan Staats, the grandson of Christine Staats. My middle name is Christine, after her. Christine was a student at the Mohawk Institute Residential School. I never knew her, but I feel like I still carry her with me. And one of the things I definitely feel is the trauma. I remember stories of her being passed down, of her escaping from the windows and scaling the walls just to get away. Instead of passing down a gift of culture and language and this beautiful tradition to her children and her grandchildren, like the Creator intended, she passed down a coat of shame. She literally had the Indian beat out of her, and that trauma trickled down through our family. The love that one gets from a parent, Christine never had, never learned how to experience, how to share it. Imagine that. As a child, never feeling love, never experiencing love. And that pattern continues through generations. My Papa's childhood was cold and hard. Because of that residential school, he didn't know his language. He didn't know his culture. He didn't know anything that I'm about to share with you here in this video. And I always saw him as kind of afraid of it. He would tell us not to use our last name on our resume because we wouldn't get the job. He would tell us not to tell people that we were Native, not to go to the reserve because it was dangerous. He cast that coat of shame down to us, his grandchildren. We were Mohawk Turtle Clan, but that was all we knew, and we didn't even know what that meant. And like a lot of families dealing with this intergenerational trauma, alcoholism, violence, depression, trauma sprinkled throughout my family. It spread like a virus you couldn't get rid of. And only when my brother and sister and I started to learn our Haudenosaunee culture did we start to recognize this dark spot that had been living inside of us. And as I started to learn about the history of my family, the history of what happened to hundreds of thousands of these Indigenous children, what happened to Christine, I started to understand those feelings of not belonging. I started to understand that pain and anger I was carrying around. And I really started to get it. And thus started my healing journey. My Papa may have never taught me the Ahodan Gariwadegwa. He didn't show me the ceremonies. He didn't show me the history of the Ganyakehaga. But one thing he did teach me was the relationship and responsibility that I had to water. As I look back now, I see residential schools. They may have cut their hair off. They may have taken their names and give them numbers, taken their language. But even through that coat of shame, my Papa felt the water. It was alive to him. It was alive inside of him. And he passed that on to me. Nyawagoa, Gord. Every morning he'd wake up at dawn and he would walk this land. He dug these ponds on this land so that future generations of his family would always have access to water. He spoke at conferences in our nation's capital about how these ponds could help Indigenous communities that didn't have access to water. He dug ponds for other people in the community. Water is in our blood, and I come to these spots to see through all of that trauma that was passed down to me and heal with the water. We all have different connections with the water. Different, yet the same.
To me, the water is almost like a physical manifestation of spirit. You can see spirit flowing down beside you.
For me, whenever I'm feeling, down or lost, or I just have a question, I just go and I sit by the water and I just listen, and it all comes and it all just feels right.
I grew up on an island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and when I left, I remember dreaming about it. And I still dream about it decades later, because the water that I grew up around was also in my blood.
Water is what makes up most of your body. So it's outside of you and it's alive and well, just like your body is. So you can literally see the spirit in the water as it's flowing.
The Grand River has been an integral part of the Haudenosaunee life. The city of Brantford and surrounding areas is on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Chippewa, and the Attawatam people. And the work we do, the activism, the learning, it will never be complete unless we acknowledge and remind ourselves and others that colonization is not just a thing of the past. We must acknowledge settlers have access to this land because of colonial violence. The Haldimand Treaty guaranteed the exclusive use of 950,000 acres, 6 miles along each side of the Grand River, to the Haudenosaunee people, to the members of Six Nations. To this day, through the process of colonialism, racism, genocide, settlers have secured 902,000 acres, leaving 48,000 acres for Six Nations. So we have to acknowledge the resilience of these Six Nations communities that have lived, loved, and resisted here forever. We acknowledge the resilience of this land. We acknowledge our role in decolonizing the mindset of the land we all call home now. And after all these broken treaties and stolen lands, still more than 50% of homes on Six Nations are running without running water. But who has the rights to these waters? The Haudenosaunee speak in terms of responsibility, respect to the water, not in terms of water rights. The law of the land is not of police and government, but it's a higher law. The original instructions, Ahodan Gariwadegwa. The Creator gave us this task as humans to recite the Thanksgiving address, which is a constant reminder of the early law of the land, to first give thanks. We believe that at one time all creatures, all living things could communicate, talk to each other, even the water. Today, the water's lost its ability, lost its voice, and it's the responsibility of the Haudenosaunee to uphold the voice of the water. It was passed down to us. So being the voice of the water, much different than owning it or having a right to it. What happens if we don't have enough water? What happens if we poison our water? What does our world look like? My papa may have never learned the traditional beliefs of his ancestors. He never learned the Thanksgiving address. He never went to Longhouse, and he never spoke a single Mohawk word.
He didn't really have, a connection to his culture, but without knowing it, he was like one of the most Indigenous men that I knew. The knowledge that he carried, how to create these ponds, how to create clean ecosystems and habitats for all our creatures out here, how to really, cultivate the water and make it safe to drink. It's just so amazing to kind of watch him do these super Indigenous things without really knowing who he was.
He may have been ashamed and afraid of who he was because of colonization. But it's not too late for us. It was those walks along the water's edge where I first remember truly feeling connected. Connected to the bigger picture, connected to nature, connected to life and to Mother Earth. I remember understanding at a very early age I had to take care of the water. And now I'm understanding that it's my responsibility to be the voice of the water, which is why I wanted to make this film. I wanted to share his story and other stories. I get to sing with the water, to the water, for the water. Water is life. It holds energy and it's alive. One of the other lessons I learned as I started to reclaim my culture was the two-row wampum.
My name is Susie Miller. I am a teacher at Emily C. General Elementary School at Six Nations. Our ancestors knew how to live in relationship because they lived in relationship for thousands of years. So the two-row is the first treaty that was made outside of Indigenous nations from Turtle Island. One purple row represents the ship of those that came across the water. The other row represents the canoe of our ancestors traveling the waters. What those two rows do is they travel parallel down the river of life, side by side, without interfering. In this row in the ship, thinking and way of life tends to be linear. It's always progressing. In the canoe way of understanding, it's like a circle, it's a cycle, and everything is connected. This treaty, when it was made, it's a promise, and there was no end point because they said that as long as the grasses grow and the rivers flow, this treaty will be in existence, and it still exists today. How we are to be living in relationship with each other.
Residential schools may have taken our languages. They may have taken our culture and our access to knowledge and ancestral wisdom. They may have caused trauma and pain that is still being felt today. But through all that, they could not take away my papa's connection to the water. It was inside of him all along, just like it's inside of you. Thank you for spending this time with me and my papa and the water and my family. Water is life. Yongana longwa onega. Onegawahi. Gunalongkwa.
This is for my bloodline, all my natives on the front line. Keep your money in your pipeline, cause nobody in their right mind. This is for my sisters, they were stolen and they're missing. And this is for my grandmother, and this is for your grandmother. Hit him with the water song, Ukji, yo. Shot accommodate like an alarm. So wake up out of Jucho and take up arms. Cause more is necessary than vocabulary. Whoa, it's a toxic rock import. Hitting your front door, CIA, I see you later. Your time is coming soon. I flip that shit like Pacino on a dark day afternoon. Yo, Attica, drug hatred, speaking static. Cause Logan Stance is back with Layla Black like, getting hotter, so I need a little water, so hit it with the water song, Ukji, yo. Let me hit my water bomb, Ukji, yo. Hit me with the water song, Ukji, yo. Ukji, yo.
Sigurli swagwag. Galahindi niwa gets. Wagisli wagi ni wakitaloda. Ani da agingwe wanege. Ani bojo danse o kinapi. How? Yonko yukotonga. Again, if you just joined us or you came in late, I just introduced myself. My name is Galahindi. I said hello, everyone. I'm from the people of the Standing Stone First Nations of the Thames, which is on the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Delaware, and Huron nations, in an area that we call the Dish with One Spoon Covenant Treaty Territory. And I hope that you've been enjoying the content today, the documentaries. If anyone is not following and you do enjoy the content, please do hit the little heart. I appreciate our community always growing, and hopefully you can take something away from our streams as we learn together, because there are things that even I am still learning, based on the fact that we've had to deal with a lot of oppression and a loss of culture and teachings. That is something that we are now reclaiming, and we are pulling back and bringing back to our community. Hi, Leland. Yonko for popping in. Nice to see you. You're just catching us actually on the tail end. But I will post this VOD uh, probably within five minutes or 10 minutes after the stream ends, just so that anybody who did miss part of it or all of it, or just want to see rewatch parts of it, because that last documentary that we just shared by Layla Black, it's not available anywhere online. It's only she's only done this through film festivals and community screenings. So Layla has sent that to me as for me to share, and I appreciate that. So it's not on YouTube. It's not so if you do want to see it again, then definitely check out the VOD. And I do reshare it occasionally, just as a way for people, especially when I've seen that there's been some new people who've come to the community and joined us, who may not have seen it at any point. I like to reshare that sometimes, just so that those people get a chance to see it as well. So, what we'll do next is I am going to share another version of the Peaceful Warrior. We always end our stream with a version of the Peaceful Warrior. And again, for those of you who don't know what it is, I'll just put the little blurb in here. There's been like 25 streamers who have taken on the challenge of doing a rendition of the Peaceful Warrior, and I am so honored that they have all done this, and I appreciate their adding their voices and their talent to this project, as so many of them have, and they all have done so in different with their own voice. So there's renditions from pop to country to folk to rock to electronic to jazz to show operatic. So I'm going to show today. I'll show the version that one of the versions I will admittedly say is one of my favorites, and this is a jazz version of the Peaceful Warrior, and it's done by an awesome couple that call themselves the Bylines, and they are definitely worth a follow. They do things in a jazzy style. Yes, the ukulele version was the Neo Kalalams. They did a great rendition of it as well. I was kind of not thinking this song would really fit into the jazz vibe, but as it turns out, the Bylines made it a jazz song, and I really love the way that they did this. So I'm going to play this. I'm going to set up the raid, so I hope that you will all grab a raid call and then refresh your chat so you're counted properly and come over to the next streamer. The streamer we're going to raid today, Fantastic Kitty introduced me to, and convinced me to follow him. We actually watched him last night. This guy is so good. You're gonna love if you're into music at all. This guy is going to. He's just so impressive. I watched him last night. I just couldn't believe how well, how talented this guy is. So please stick around for that. So let me get my mug off the screen, and we'll get the jazzy vibe going on, and then we'll go over and share some love. So please stick around for that.
Attacks we see must cease. What are we doing here? What do we really want to say? This world has got to change its way. We're going to battle for the red, white, yellow, and black. Fight for the ones who can't fight back. We're talking about all the creatures from the water to the sky. Talking about the issues from the truth to the lies. Gonna make my stand with a paper and a pen. You wanna argue that? Go back to bed again. 'Cause you're never gonna win against what I stand for. Shut up and listen as I give my grand tour. I'm gonna target the corruption in our government, target the poison in our environment, the injustices to the people. And every target I won't keep still. Gonna battle the battle of battles, shake up the cage till it rattles. 'Cause you'll never get rid of me till all of us are free. Our names are Maren Reese, and we're at war for peace. All senseless attacks we see must cease. Gonna fight for the red, white, yellow, and black. Gonna fight for the ones who can't fight back. Let's keep passing around information, improve the planet through education, make the people aware, make everybody care. Pass my message on if you dare. Mine or yours, we all gotta share. There's more power in one person's voice than any weapon of choice. Our names are Maren Reese, and we're at war for peace. All senseless attacks we see must cease. But we won't be able to move this world all alone. Just remember, this is also your home. So if I put my voice with your voice, and we all shout together, people gonna hear us. Things are gonna get better. Our names are Maren Reese. We're at war for peace. All senseless attacks we see must cease. All senseless attacks we see must cease.
Runs with Wine, and everybody, we hope you enjoy this song. It's kind of like a mashup,
yes,
of our original songs with Dark Natives, or Galahunde's Galahunde's poem, The Peaceful Warrior.
Yeah, which is in itself a beautiful concept. Yeah. 3, 4.
The Nyokalelim, that's us. Welcome to the Nyokalelim Social Club. The Nyokalelim, I'm Neo.
I'm Lim.
And with our ukuleles, we're the Nyokalelim. We're the Nyokalelim, we're at war for peace. All senseless attacks we see must cease. We fight for the ones who can't fight back. We battle for all the people who lack. We're the Nyokalelim from Singapore. We sing for justice without pawpaw. We make a stand with ukuleles in hand. If you believe, come join our band together. Ooh, yeah, together. Ooh, yeah. There's much more power in one man's voice than all the weapons of military choice. Add your voice to our voice, we can shout out loud. We belong to the human race and we are proud. Ooh. Hello everybody. We sindiri syok. Syok means of course feel good. Tiap babe, how are you? Have you eaten? We're the Nyokalelim here to sing and laugh and eat with you while fighting for freedom together. Hey, in Singapore, Pink Dot has just passed fighting for the freedom to love. Write to your MP and say, repeal 377A. It's an old outdated law. Let's move on, Singapore. We have seen how the world can be devastated to the actions of men with minds of hatred. Why discriminate? Choose love instead of hate. While we're at it, let's ask them to abolish the death penalty. You know what? We're executing the poor, the underprivileged, the uneducated. It's insanity. Everyone deserves a second chance at life. Let's not make state murder rife. But we can't move this world alone. So just remember, this is also your home. So if we put my voice with his voice and your voice and whose voice? Kitty's voice, Rio's voice, Augustine's voice, Josh, everyone out there. If we all put our voices, we can shout together, then people are gonna hear us and things are gonna get better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're the Nyokalelim, we say one more time. Listen to the message in our rhyme. Together we can make the whole world care. Together we can make the whole world care. Let's all love life together. Of our hearts. Yeah, let's all love life. Yeah, come on, let's all be peaceful warriors together. We can make things better. We can even change the weather if we all just love life together, together. Let's all love life together. Madam Wonder, you're here.
She hides like a child. She's always a woman to me.